9:43. Want to welcome Shawn Simpson to the show. Former hockey player, hockey executive, on the Team 1200 on CTV as well. Good to have you on the program.
Yeah, thanks.
I wish it was under better circumstances because I fear
the Red Sox are struggling.
Yeah, we're not going to. I fear that the hockey season is in dire straits right now, and I think you have the same kind of fear.
Yeah, I don't think it's in dire straits. I think what we have to recognize here, there's going to be a delay. I mean, you've got a negotiation that really isn't a negotiation. You've got owners on one side where it's really, hey, this is an offer. Now you come over to my side. This isn't common ground. This isn't finding other things. So we're going to end up with a delay as to how long. I think it'll be December, but I can't imagine us missing another season.
A full season.
A full season. I can't imagine both sides. There's no upside. Even more so on the player side, the downside of missing a whole season would just be a disaster.
You have been on both sides of this issue in your career. Mm-hmm. Is there one side that's more on the right than the other, or is this just a situation that they've gotten themselves into from both ends over time?
Well, I don't have a feeling on one side or the other. What I do recognize in this process is that the players are going to have to come over a long ways to make this work. You've got a very good financial engine going right now in the National Hockey League. You know, the revenues are way up. Everything's, in a lot of ways, you've got some franchises that are struggling, but every major league has that. So you've got to kind of dice that around a little bit. I'm not picking sides. What's going to be really hard is if they have to roll back the salaries. They're looking for that. They're looking for elimination of arbitration. They're looking for extended on free agency. You're basically looking to go back 30 years. You know, you're going to bring the players almost back into the dark ages.
Are the players willing to go there, and will they have to go there?
Well, willing and have to. I don't think they're willing to right now. Once the paychecks stop, and I use the analogy with a Chris Phillips. You got $3.5 million this year. The recognition of, is it a rollback, or do I roll the dice and go through a whole season without a paycheck? And then all of a sudden, a year from now, coming out of that, what are you going to have then? So I don't think the players are going to go down that road. To me, you go to December 1st, or whenever the league says, listen, here's a deadline today. If we don't have an agreement, there's not going to be a season. If I'm the players' union, I negotiate hard up until that point, and then I make the best deal I can.
Yeah. There's one thing, I mean, for the average Joe to go through a work stoppage of whatever the reason might be without a paycheck. These players, it's the same thing on a different level, right? Because they make a lot of money, they spend a lot of money, they have bigger mortgages, bigger things to pay for. So once you stop paychecks at any level, that's when it starts to hurt.
Well, and also just the window to make that money. I mean, it's so small. It can be taken away by injury. It can, other things can end up happening in your life, but that's your window. You've negotiated. You've worked hard. You've gotten to a point where, hey, this is my window to make my money. And not necessarily, not every player has to be set up for the rest of his life, but based on the dollars and the average salary being $2.4 million, you can put yourself in an awful good situation coming out of your hockey career.
Are they making too much money, Shawn?
It's a free market, so there's no such thing. As long as the financial engine is in place, as long as fans are still going to the game and there's interest, I say they can make whatever the owners want to pay them. Yeah. Do I think it's a little high at times? When I look at guys, it is.
Sure.
And they want to dial that back now, but no, I'm all for the players on that part of it.
Well, the one way to look at this is that no matter what happens in the interim, let's face it, when it comes to the big salaries and the long contracts that are worth tens of millions of dollars, it was both sides that did it. It was the offer that came from teams that the players took. It's not like, they demanded it and so on. It was both sides doing their thing.
Oh, no, it really is. And that's the competitive part of the business. Is it's not only as a player, but as a general manager. I'm trying to put the best product on the ice. And I say that to people a lot of times. As a general manager, you recognize this is not my money at the end of the day. My job is to put the best product. And where the salaries go and the issue of having arbitration, go back to 2004. And they went through this process. They got a salary cap. You didn't know what it was going to be like coming out the other side. And you had an 80-cent Canadian dollar. People talk about revenue going through the roof. A big portion of that has been the Canadian economy and the franchises. Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts in this, and the owners have now sat back and looked at it and said, hey, we've got to correct this. And the other dynamic that's changed so much now is that Gary Bettman used to work for Jeremy Jacobs, Bill Wirtz, and Ed Schneider. And now Mr. Bettman, who's not the most likable fellow in the world, to me has absolute power. Not that he's not answering to Jacobs or some of the other people, but the dynamic of what he's doing, he's almost trying to save the owners from themselves.
Right. Interesting scenarios shaping up. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll have you back on the show as things develop further.
That'd be great.